From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Some of the state's most iconic national parks are struggling to make necessary renovations to their facilities. Find out how much it will cost Arizona to put everything in working order.
Money made from selling public land usually goes to a trust fund, but one bill looks to amend the Arizona state constitution and put more money in the hands of the state land department.
Introducing a few bugs to kill an entire invasive forest. How conservationists in Graham County are trying to balance an ecosystem and protect endangered species.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Maria Thompson.
And I'm Twila Nugent. Thanks for joining us.
National parks should be a point of pride for our country, but nearly all of them need work.
Billions of dollars in money that should go to maintenance and repairs wasn't given. That's according to the recently released deferred maintenance statistics.
Cronkite News reporter Sonny Scott looked into the Arizona national parks and traveled down to Coolidge to see how one national park on that list is dealing with the lack of assistance.
Maria, the National Park Service says the national total of deferred maintenance is an estimated $11.5 billion worth of needed maintenance projects just last year due to the lack of funding. More than $516 million of that is at Arizona facilities.
At Casa Grande Ruins National Monument, more people are visiting the park now that it's springtime. Visitors know it's important for the parks to stay up with their maintenance on infrastructure, visitor centers, trails, and campgrounds.
Somebody's got to come up with the money to basically support the national parks and all of the resources that are, that they need and stuff with campgrounds and roads and things like that.
Here in Arizona, the top 5 parks with the highest amount of deferred maintenance are the Grand Canyon, Petrified Forest National Park, Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, Saguaro National Park, and the Wuputki National Monument. At the ruins, there are over $2 million.
And what that means is there's $2 million worth of projects here in the park that need work, and they're going to continue growing worse.
The main things that need maintenance at the monument are the ruins itself, the road leading into the park, walls around the monument, and missing pieces from their outside roof. Carney says there are over $700,000 for their roads and a little under $700,000 for their buildings in deferred maintenance.
The ruins, actually, we apply treatments to those to make sure that they're just not falling to the ground. And if they fall to the ground, well, there goes the resource that everybody comes here to see.
The city says the deferred maintenance problem at the ruins needs attention quickly before more changes come to the park.
Representatives Kirkpatrick and Kozar and Senator McCain that are trying to expand the ruins. They've got a bill in place that they're trying to expand the ruins, which will directly impact the city of Coolidge.
Carney would also like to have the repairs made before the park's centennial next year.
To take some money and bring things back up to speed so that the public can come and see their parks, and especially during our centennial, and get rid of some of that backlog and do the best we can.
Now, the report released by the National Park Service is also asking Congress for a budget request for operational funding, and with that is $300 million annually for the next 3 years. Reporting live in Coolidge, I'm Sonny Scott, Cronkite News.
Arizona's state budget has been heavily criticized this spring, and now the first lawsuit has been filed over how the state land department will be funded. A new proposal would divert funds from education to the state lands budget.
I think they also have to ask Congress to amend the federal law that created this trust in the first place.
The Arizona Constitution and Congress's Enabling Act state that money from the sales of public land go to a trust fund.
This is a trust. All of the money, every single cent of it, has to go to the beneficiaries, and that's mostly public schools.
But the state wants to create a separate fund for the Trust Land Administration, which currently has $12.5 million in its budget. A ballot initiative would ask voters whether or not the state can divert up to 10% of proceeds from sales of state trust lands to fund the state land department. Tim Hogan, executive director for the Arizona Center for Law and the Public Interest, feels there's no reason to change.
We've been funding the land department out of the general fund for over 100 years since statehood. But for whatever reason, they've been anxious to get at the sale of school trust lands.
The state land department declined to comment on the pending litigation. The Center for Law in the Public Interest filed a lawsuit back in 2009 over a similar ballot proposal, and the Supreme Court ruled the ballot measure was a violation of the state constitution and Congress's Enabling Act. The Senate pushed through 2 proposals to transfer federal public lands to the state before 2022. The one proposal would allow the federal government to turn over all land that does not serve a purpose outlined in the U.S. Constitution. The other would allow Arizona to join a state compact for the transfer of public lands. This would create a commission to secure sovereignty and jurisdiction over western states' public lands, which Utah passed last year.
And a bill Governor Ducey signed this week is reigniting the abortion debate. The bill says that doctors who administer medication-induced abortions will now have to tell their patients that the procedure can be reversed. Senate Bill 1318 also keeps insurance companies from providing abortion services to women who have federal health care, except in cases of rape and incest. Cronkite News reporter Carrie Adams tracked exactly what this bill does and what doctors in the Valley and across the nation are saying. Carrie?
Thanks, Maria. There are really 3 parts to this bill. The law will prohibit any Arizona healthcare exchange from providing coverage for abortions, but the part that is most controversial is requiring physicians who perform the abortion to inform women at least 24 hours before the abortion that it may be possible to reverse the effects of a drug-induced abortion. And the law requires the Arizona Department of Health Services website to provide information on reversing drug-induced abortions. On the medical side, the law had opponents alleging there was insignificant science and no valid studies to back up the claim that this procedure is in fact reversible. I spoke to Dr. Chris Murphy with Women's Health of Arizona, who talked about the drugs involved in this procedure and the improbability of actually conducting a medical study on reversing the procedure.
To my knowledge, there are no studies out there that are looking at mifepristone followed by rescue progesterone to help save a pregnancy. What woman would sign up for the study of, let me take an abortion drug followed by maybe it'll rescue and save the pregnancy? It's just not feasible.
With the bill now signed into law, even doctors who are skeptical of the science will have to comply. The law will officially take effect 90 days after the end of the legislative session. Live in the Media Center, I'm Carrie Adams, Cronkite News.
New data from the census shows Arizona experienced a bit of a paradox in comparing the number of people with health insurance and the state of the Arizona economy. The report said the number of people with health insurance in the state improved slightly in the period from 2006 to 2013, going from 21.8% uninsured to 20% without insurance. That moved Arizona from 5th worst in the nation to 8th worst for number of uninsured residents. Experts caution that the numbers did not reflect the surge in the number of people with insurance since the Affordable Care Act took effect last year. Nearly 500,000 Arizonans have received newly available health insurance through the marketplace or Medicaid since 2014.
And today, Maricopa County is one of only 2 locations in the U.S. that will participate in Census Day as a test site for the most redesigned census in U.S. history. The actual Census Day is 5 years from now on April 1st, 2020. But Maricopa is testing new technology and methods to help make the census data better. Census Bureau Director John H. Thompson says this timing is critical and the savings will be high. Thompson said, quote, "We estimate that up to $5 million in savings could result from providing an internet response option, automatic field operations, repurposing existing information, and other innovations."
Next on Cronkite News, we'll take you to Graham County, where efforts are being made to combat an invasive species in the area.
And they aren't your typical house pets, but these animals were all rescued from backyards in Arizona.
Access Across Arizona allows us to travel to the 15 different counties in Arizona and find new, fresh voices and underreported stories.
It's been a great opportunity to travel to places we haven't been to before and talk to people we haven't heard from until now.
With our new technology, we're now able to deliver stories directly to you from across Arizona. Live in Mojave County,
reporting live from Prescott,
live in Parker, Arizona.
Weeknights at 5 on 8HD. When you want to be more connected, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us online.
Cronkite News is a real newsroom with real stories told by real reporters.
bringing you the latest in all news, all Arizona.
Now airing on 8HD, this is Cronkite News.
Weeknights at 5 on 8HD.
A group effort is underway in southeastern Arizona to combat the negative effects two invasive species will have and will cause in southeastern Arizona. Cronkite News reporter Brenda Carrasco traveled to Graham County and the town of Fort Thomas and found out what two organizations are doing to fix the environmental problem.
These workers aren't your typical landscapers. Armed with chainsaws and other tools, these volunteers for the Arizona Conservation Corps are on a mission to help save a threatened ecosystem in Safford.
A lot of people that get attracted to conservation work love working with their hands. They're going back into, like, let's say, just being outside, getting dirty. You're dirty every day. You camp for 9 days straight without a shower. But in the long run, like, when you're with a group of like 8 or 6, like, you all share that same passion.
Volunteers like Marcy Caballero Reynolds are working with the Gila Watershed Partnership to help prepare for the arrival of the Tamarisk beetle, a species of beetle that will eventually kill off the invasive salt cedar trees found in areas all over the southwest U.S.
They come from another country, another continent, and they have no predators here. We have some salty soils here, so they pull up that salt up into their leaves, and then they weep that salt back out on the surface of the ground, which then sterilizes the ground makes it impossible for other plants to live.
The salt cedars are so resilient and invasive that in 2001, the USDA approved the use of the tamarisk beetle as a biological control agent to help defoliate and eventually kill the trees.
They've been working their way to Arizona, and we expect them here in 3 to 4 years in this part of Arizona. And when they come here, they have a way of just devastating, eating up all of the vegetation on the salt cedars, because that's what the bugs do.
But the beetles will in turn create a new challenge. Killing the salt cedars also means killing the home of two endangered species.
This is critical habitat, designated critical habitat for southwest willow flycatcher and the western yellow-billed cuckoo. So those birds both live in native plants here, but since the salt cedar has come in and taken over, the birds have adapted and now live in the salt cedars.
Without the salt cedars, the birds wouldn't have anywhere to nest and grow their already threatened numbers. So volunteers are growing native plants inside this Safford greenhouse until these new homes are ready for transplant at the project site.
In the greenhouse specifically, out there we've moved out a bunch of saccatone. Giant saccatone and alkali saccatone.
Making room for the new trees means cutting down hundreds of tamarisk trees with the help of chainsaws and heavy machinery.
Areas like these are just small sections of tamarisk trees that have already been cleared. The partnership is looking to clear a total of 200 acres for the remainder of their 5-year project.
We're in a position in our lifetime where we need to protect as much as that we can, like our resources and everything. And even though this site we're taking all these trees down, in the process, you know that you are doing something better for the environment.
Change that the volunteers and the partnership hope will save the birds for the next generations to come.
We have additional multimedia coverage on this topic on our homepage. You can see the full report on CronkiteNewsOnline.com.
And coming up next on Cronkite News, it's another sunny day here in downtown Phoenix. Stick around and I'll let you know if things are going to start heating up.
And with clear skies and warm weather, we could see more bees. We talked to the inventor of the Sting Pain Index and where bees rank on his scale.
Throughout its history, Arizona PBS and volunteers have enjoyed a rich and rewarding partnership. Whether answering phones during our pledge campaigns, stuffing envelopes, or assisting with special events, volunteering at 8 is fun and provides excellent work experience, team building for a group, and a sense of community involvement and importance. If you would like to volunteer at 8, or if you have dropped off our mailing list, we encourage you to call the number on your screen or go online at azpbs.org/volunteer. Thank you.
The easiest and best way to support 8 Arizona PBS is by becoming a sustaining member. Your monthly contribution of $5 or more comes directly from your bank account or credit card, so you know your membership is always current. It also means no more renewal notices in your mailbox. So more of your dollars go to the programs you love. It's convenient for you, greener for us, and better for the planet. Become a sustaining member today.
When you want to be more connected, friend us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Watch us online. Explore worlds of wonder here on 8 Arizona PBS, a viewer-supported community service of Arizona State University.
Imagine these eyes staring at you from your neighbor's backyard. These two Bengal tigers are now living in Out of Africa Wildlife Park in Camp Verde after they were discovered living on a residential property in Gilbert. An alert neighbor tipped off the Arizona Game and Fish Department in that case, but you may be surprised by how many cases like this they deal with. Cronkite News reporter Katrina Arroyo spoke with a rescue group to find out what happens to animals when they're confiscated.
Exotic animals are confiscated every day by the Arizona Game and Fish Department and partnered agencies. According to the Phoenix Herpetological Society, the highest number of captured animals in one day was 32 alligators and 80 snakes. Daniel Marchand cares for exotic animals like alligators, turtles, and snakes. His passion for reptiles started at a young age when his dad built their property in the desert.
The only thing that was out here were reptiles and other things in the desert, but I focused primarily on reptiles and learned about them and enjoyed them because it was kind of the only thing I had to do on the weekends.
His passion has helped many exotic animals here in the valley who were once illegally the pets of local residents.
They come from all over and for many different reasons. A number of animals here in Arizona that we have at our facility currently come through confiscations, obviously.
Arizona has strict laws about the possession of exotic animals.
The animals on that list are typically those that, if possessed, would either pose a risk to human safety or would pose a risk to native wildlife populations.
When a species is reported in a residential home, the Arizona Game and Fish Department becomes involved and a case is created against the pet owner.
We handle these types of issues because we have the statutory authority and responsibility to do so.
These animals come from all over the world. Some are even shipped by standard mail.
People buy things, they get too big, they get afraid of it, whatever the reason is, then they have the tendency they want to turn it loose.
To avoid any animal attacks, these departments and societies get involved to keep residents safe and prosecute owners. But the pets never go back to their native environment.
They basically become evidence, just like anything else, like if it were drugs or guns or anything like that. That's evidence held against that person to show that they did have it and it was an illegal thing that they did.
And that evidence leads to charges. As for this latest case involving the Bengal tigers in Gilbert, the alleged owner now faces charges including illegal possession of restricted wildlife and forgery. Live in the broadcast center, I'm Katrina Arroyos, Cronkite News.
As the weather warms up, the insects come out. One evolutionary biologist is studying just how painful their stings can be by getting stung himself.
Justin Schmidt says it's a mystery how he first became involved in studying bugs, but that his fascination in the evolution of jointy-legged creatures stuck with him.
And so one of the things in life is that you're either being at risk of starving or being eaten.
Schmidt developed the Sting Pain Index by rating insect stings from 1 to 4, 4 being the most painful. The pain ratings help Schmidt and his team understand what provokes them to sting.
Catch them, lure them and trick them, so we can trick them to their demise.
While mosquitoes and scorpions are the traditionally feared insects of Arizona, Schmidt says there is another bug we should be looking out for these next few months.
Winter rain brings spring flowers, which in turn bring honeybees to the valley and possibly your backyard.
So they're going to be building up their numbers dramatically, and the swarms are already starting, and they're looking for some place to call home.
And some bees have found their home at several of Arizona State University's campuses.
For the most part, I haven't been bothered by them too much. Of course, there's one flying around right now.
Schmidt says he has been stung by bees more than 500 times, but that is the only way he can get accurate data from his research.
Oh, that's how this insect is looking at things. So therefore, I can manipulate and kind of outsmart them and get a little closer to what I want to learn or know or do.
A honeybee sting only ranks a 2 on Schmidt's pain scale, but there are steps you can take to avoid getting stung. Throwing away extra food, gently blowing on a bee that lands on you will encourage it to fly away without scaring it, and not wearing fragrance when outside are helpful ways to avoid a sting.
Now with all this nice weather, we can expect even more bees. Brooke, can you tell us what else to expect this week?
Thanks, Maria. You know, even though there are a lot of bees out there right now, we're experiencing beautiful weather here in the valley. Right now we're sitting at a warm 90 degrees with mostly sunny skies out there, a couple scattered clouds here and there. We do have a 10% humidity, so it is nice and dry out there. And for those of you complaining that it's getting too hot too soon, just to put in perspective, the record high was 100 degrees back in 2011. Now we are a little bit warmer than our average of 81, but I'll take 90 over 100 any day. Let's take a look in and around the valley to see how things are heating up. Over here in Mesa, 90 degrees. Up in Scottsdale, 86, and then over here in Goodyear, we have 90 degrees right now. Taking a broader look across the state, we're in that 60 to 90 degree temperature-wise. Up at north of the Grand Canyon, 65 degrees. Prescott sitting at 70. Imo's all the way at 90 as well, and then down in Tucson, 87 degrees. This brings us into our 5-day forecast. As you can see, we have lots of sunshine coming our way. We have a 10% chance of rain tomorrow. It's going to drop back down to 0 for the rest of the week, so it shouldn't really affect us. We're going to be in the mid to upper 80s throughout the rest of the weekend, so be sure to have all that water and sunscreen handy. And then Monday, we're going to cool back off into the 70s. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Brooke Wazowitz.
A wave of green swept the U.S. Airways Center last week. Find out why the Suns were so excited to swap out their signature orange for a color that was a little more environmentally friendly.
For veterans, coming back to civilian life brings new challenges, new opportunities, and new stories of remarkable courage and accomplishment. Sharing their stories can help communities understand the veteran experience, and through Arizona Veterans Coming Home, 8 connects veterans and their families to resources and services for a successful transition to civilian life. Explore some of the best resources and opportunities for veterans at azpbs.org/veterans. Arizona Veterans Coming Home, connecting Arizona's veterans to the right resources at the right time.
Cronkite News is a real newsroom with real stories told by real reporters.
Bringing you the latest in all news, all Arizona.
Now airing on 8HD, this is Cronkite News.
Weeknights at 5 on 8HD.
Hi, I'm Dr. Terry Woodbeck. Adverse childhood experiences can last a lifetime, but they don't have to. You can help break the cycle of neglect and abuse. Visit azpbs.org/strongkids.
When you want to be more connected, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us online.
Cronkite News is proud to join the Arizona PBS News block here on 8HD.
Here's a look at what's coming up tonight on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
Coming up after Cronkite News, it's Arizona Horizon. We will have the latest on bill signings and vetoes in our weekly legislative update. And Bob Bose-Bell tells us about his new book, True West Moments. That's next on Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff on the next News Hour. Investing in improving the education of young men of color. But are girls being left out? That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
Tucson is looking to bring a bowl game back to their city. The working title is the Arizona Bowl. It would likely be played between Christmas and early January at the University of Arizona. This would be the first bowl game in Tucson since 1999. The deadline to apply with the NCAA is today. Decisions will be made in a few weeks.
And another team is making changes. While orange is usually the color of choice at Phoenix Suns home games, fans at the U.S. Airways Center were treated to a dose of green last week in honor of the NBA's Green Week, an effort by the league to promote environmental protections. Cronkite News reporter Kristen Kirby has the story.
It was fitting that on recycling night, the Phoenix Suns got a little extra noise from the crowd when they tipped off NBA Green Week by giving fans a fan clapper made out of recycled paper. The Sun said that their overall recycling efforts lowered their carbon footprint by about 80% in the last year.
We've enhanced our recycling program to also include plastics and glass. So now we've been able to divert more waste from the landfill to recycling. We've reduced our waste in the landfill by about 19% since our partnership started with the Phoenix Mercury last summer.
I think it's great. I think that's kind of the only way to get recognition, not the only way, but one of the ways to get recognition for recycling because, you know, sports teams have such a high platform in today's society.
In 2012, the Suns partnered with APS to install 966 solar panels right here on the top level of the U.S. Airways Center parking garage. The arena is now one of only 5 NBA venues to have solar panels.
With our energy-based initiatives, we ended up lowering our energy efficiency, or increasing our energy efficiency. So now we kind of operate about 27% better than the average on for the league on a game day.
The Suns concluded NBA Green Week on Friday when their entire game against the Blazers was powered by green renewable energy purchased from APS. Reporting in Phoenix, I'm Kristen Kirby, Cronkite News.
According to the Suns, the solar panels on the roof of the U.S. Airways Center garage develop enough energy for about 20 game days. There will be more green theme nights to come at U.S. Airways Center this summer.
And that's it for Cronkite News tonight.
Thanks for joining us. Good night.
Find top Arizona stories anytime at CronkiteNewsOnline.com.